Hi and welcome to the Trist channel. Does a human heart have a finite number of beats? Yes and no. An average of 80 beats per minute, most of us will manage less than 4 billion beats in our lives. But you don't die because you run out of heartbeats, you run out of heartbeats because you die. Meaning, if I manage to hit the 4 billion mark, my heart doesn't just stop and I die. It all depends on my health, etc. I can live longer, therefore more beats. If I live longer, I have more beats basically. But the heart is a pump, not a power source, or at least a power source on its own. There are other factors, etc., that affect the human body. But this theory has been misunderstood as this universal thing that connects us to everything else on Earth, because we all have the same amount of beats. However, that's not the case. Among mammals, the number of heartbeats over the lifespan of different species is fairly constant. So hamster's heart beats 400 times a minute, and they live for about 4 years, which is 840 million beats. And an elephant manages 35 beats per minute for 35 years, or about 640 million beats total. Now those numbers are similar, but that's just because animals with faster heart rates are also smaller and at more risk from predation and starvation. Their lifespans have evolved to compensate for this by reproducing early and often. They live fast and die young. The heart muscle can only repair itself very slowly, so eventually every heart will wear out, but not after a specific number of beats. It's also interesting to note certain birds, even though having a faster heartbeat, live longer than standard birds or heart-beating birds, as it were. The theory also falls apart when maths and common sense is applied to it. If you scour the internet, there are videos of mathematicians taking notes of their activities and their BPM during said activities, and the numbers per week or month are huge. So if you had 4 billion heartbeats, depending on how active or stressed your life is, chances are you'd be dead in your 40s roughly, which is interesting because that's when this theory was written. It was during a time of low life expectancy. It was also popularized by a fake quote by Neil Armstrong, who apparently said the following: I believe that every human has a finite number of heartbeats. I do not intend to waste any of my time running around doing exercises. But he never said this. So believe me when I say, even though I'm not an exercise freak, well, there's nothing wrong with exercising, it won't do you any harm or shorten your lifespan. Ironically, exercise gives you more beats than it subtracts. For this, I'm referring to resting heartbeats or resting heart. An example, for example, an example by experts, for example, is an average resting heart rate can range from 60 to 100 beats per minute. But for this example, let's call it 75 beats per minute. That means this person's heart would be beating 108,000 times a day. When you exercise, your heart rate increases substantially. For vigorous exercise, your heart might reach a sustained rate of 150 beats per minute. If you kept up your routine for an hour, that would translate to 9,000 beats for 1 hour. So it piles up. But exercise can also affect slowing a person's resting heart rate, with highly conditioned athletes often having resting pulses in the range of 40 to 50 beats per minute. Assuming a resting heart rate of 50 beats per minute, the heart of the well-conditioned person will beat another 69,000 times over the remaining 23 hours of the day. Add that to the hour of exercise and you get a daily total of 78,000 beats. That means our athlete has a heart that beats 30,000 fewer times a day over a year. That's almost 11 million beats conserved. And over 70 or 80 years, the figure approaches 100 million. Obviously, these numbers will vary a bit, but the lesson remains the same. Exercising saves heartbeats. That said, there is no fixed number of heartbeats per human lifespan. The rate of living theory is an ancient explanation of longevity that hypothesized that aging occurs due to the exhaustion of something finite, such as heartbeats or breaths. Perhaps Max Rubner in 1908 assumed it whilst observing the animal kingdom, where, for example, hummingbirds whose hearts can beat more than 1,000 times a minute rarely live more than a few years, albeit some may argue its heartbeat is designed to beat that fast due to its unique way of flying. While slow-pulsed elephants, 35 beats per minute, routinely survive to the ripe old age of 70. But scientific studies have debunked this theory in humans. Indeed, by extending our lives by an average of 30 years over the last century, modern medicine has greatly increased the number of heartbeats each of us enjoy in our lifetimes. But also, it is interesting to note that people who die of old age didn't die because their heart ran out of beats. There were a varied series of factors that affected the body or their health which caused them to die, not a finite heart rate. So if someone says you only have an X amount of heartbeats in your lifetime, take it with a pinch of salt. And God knows how many, God knows how many beats that a bipolar person burns off, or someone with anger management issues, or, again, it just all falls apart with all the amount of stress and all the things that cause your heart to tremendously beat and all that sort of thing. But also remember, we used to think the heart was at the source of it all, before discovering later that it was just a pump. We used to think it was the life force when it's just a pump. Anyway, I hope you liked this video and found it informative. If you do, hit the like, and if you haven't, then please show support by subscribing to the channel and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on any updates or future uploads. Until next time, folks, take care and be well.